Welcome to Friday's Flavor, a podcast where we take the pulse on New York business from New York business. Subscribe to support the movers and shakers, making you love New York. Welcome to Friday's Flavor, everybody. It's your girl JoJo here from Schenectady, and I'm here with Jennifer Bashant today. Thank you for joining us. Jennifer is the owner of Building Better Futures. She's an international speaker, and she's going to talk to us about her number one startup and business running tips. I'm super excited. And Jennifer, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and how one becomes an international speaker, because I think that's like the first thing I said to you when we initially met. I was like, how does that even happen? Because who says one day I'm going to be an international speaker, and then how does that happen though? you know?
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for having me, first of all. So what I do is I travel around to different schools and businesses, and I also do keynotes. And I talk a lot about mental health and resilience and how to really work with challenging behaviors in the school setting, how to get along better with people and communicate better in the work setting, be more mindful. Talk a lot about mindfulness too. So in terms of being international, it happened just because when I started my business, I always had a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And so I started by kind of visualizing traveling a lot. I didn't get to really travel a lot as a kid and as a young adult. And I always wanted to see different parts of the world. So I always thought, oh, it would be so cool to travel to different cool places and give talks while I was there and get to see the world. And so it's always been part of my vision. And what I believe is if you spend a few minutes each day kind of visualizing yourself living that life, then when opportunities come up that will enable you to get there, you see them more clearly and they kind of jump out at you as, oh, that could be something that could lead to maybe some travel or expanding to the international scene. So for me, I was every year I search for different conferences that I might want to keynote or present at. And so one year, a couple years ago, I was looking at international conferences. And I found this one in Belgium, International Institute for Restorative Practices. And so I figured it's a long shot, but I just applied for it. And I ended up being accepted to be a speaker. So that's how it started. And now I think big and I'm looking for opportunities to grow. Really, geographic location isn't a limit for me anymore. So
That's awesome, really awesome. So you kind of think it and it'll happen kind of way of looking at things. I do too. I think that, if you think down thoughts, you're going to stay down. If you think up thoughts, you can only go up. It just makes sense. And then, and that hasn't come without its challenges for yourself personally. Talk to us about imposter syndrome, because this is something you've told me about a little bit.
Yeah, so especially as a keynote speaker, when I'm getting up on stage and I have 5, 6, 7, 800 people in the audience, without fail, before that event, I have things pop up in my head. I call it my inner critic or my inner voice will pop up and say things like, who are you to be getting up in front of all of these people? Why would they care what you have to say? And how are you qualified to do this? And, just really self-doubting thoughts. And I used to think it was just me that happened to, but then I learned more about it, especially with women entrepreneurs. It's very, very common. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure all of us have it to some degree.
Yeah.
And so it's just a thing, especially for women, that we have to be aware of. And so personally, I catch myself doing that or having that experience anytime I'm stretching myself beyond, I'm trying something new or doing something bigger than I've done before, that imposter syndrome will pop up. And so what I do is try to find ways to counteract it. And I've experimented with different things. And what works for me is just to first acknowledge it and then normalize it and just say, yep, there it is again. That's the imposter syndrome. Everybody has it. It's normal, but I don't have to listen to it. And then I try to counteract it with more positive affirmations like, people do want to listen to what you have to say, and you are an expert on what you talk about, and you've done this before, and maybe I haven't done it before. I'm trying something new, but I just basically build myself up and remind myself that, I am qualified to do what I'm doing, and just to keep going. Don't doubt myself and keep going.
I love that. And I agree. I think a lot of people deal with, imposter syndrome, inferiority complexes, things like that that are sort of, tightly related. And, one of the things that I've learned is kind of like what you do. But I call it say the opposite. In my head, I go, all right, you just had a negative thought. Say the exact opposite of it, because words are powerful. The Bible says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. So the things that you say, and especially your inner monologue, what you say to yourself, they end up being lived out. They end up being the truth, right? So whatever you have, or in my case, whenever I have a very negative thought, and we all have them at times, I go, okay, what's the exact opposite of that thought? And I say it out loud, even if it was something that I just said to myself in my head, because we're all ruder to ourselves than anybody else could ever be, right? We're all our own worst critics most of the time.
Yes.
And so I always, I don't even care if I look cray-cray out in public. I'll say, if I say something rude to myself, I'll go, oh, you would never say that to somebody else. Now, what's the opposite? And I'll whip out whatever the opposite of what I just said is. If it's, oh God, your pants don't really fit today. Well, that's a tough one, because there's not really enough.
The opposite is, I look awesome today.
Yeah.
I am doing about my day and feeling great about myself.
Yes. It's the quarantine 15. Okay. Nobody's judging anybody. And if they are.
I'm with you, sister. I'm with you on that one. But Esther and Jerry Hicks always say, and they have written a lot of books on this topic, and they always say thoughts become things.
Yes, it's so true. They really do.
Self manifests into your reality. So yeah, the imposter syndrome is really important to I just think of it as beating it down and just not listening to it. It's there, it's going to be there, but I can overcome it.
Amen. Yes, you can. And then you talk a lot about being a visionary. Let's hear about that a little bit.
Yeah, so with my business, I actually started out focusing in a completely different direction. 5 years ago when I started, I planned on having a coaching business for parents who have challenging kids. And I started out, I invested a good amount of money in a coaching program for myself. And really, I spent 4 months actually creating a curriculum for parents. And I started attracting clients and coaching them online. And I got about a year into it, and I realized this isn't going to work. This business model isn't going to work, because I don't have enough time in the day to bring in enough clients to make the money I needed to make, and it wasn't scalable. So I actually completely ended up shifting more over into schools and businesses, and my whole focus changed. So in terms of being a visionary, I think visionary in the sense that I knew what I wanted for myself, what kind of life I wanted, and what I wanted that to look like. And my original path wasn't going to get me there. But I also try to be visionary in terms of what my clients need. And there's a lot going on in schools right now, as you know, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so my entire business had to pivot again this summer. And I do a lot of listening, a lot of asking questions, having conversations with school administrators, with teachers, and even with students. And so what I'm doing is trying to understand where the struggles are, what the needs are, and then I even try to project what those might be a year down the road. And so far, I think that's one of the reasons I've been successful as I have, is because I'm usually right there, qualified and read up, and I've created materials and trainings that are just what people need at the right time. So I think it's important, no matter what industry you're in or what your business focuses on, to really listen to your clients, study the sort of the climate of what's going on, and make yourself available to meet those needs and qualified to meet those needs.
That's amazing that you didn't, just go, oh, you know what, this business doesn't work, the business model doesn't work, and throw it away. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
changed it, and you worked with what you had, and you kind of pivoted and changed your trajectory in a way so that you could achieve the goal that you wanted to achieve. I think that is great. And that does have a lot to do with being visionary, because a lot of people in that same situation go, you know what? This was just a big mistake. Shouldn't have done this. I should have just stuck with my 9 to 5, or I shouldn't have stepped out on this limb. And they have that sort of negative self-talk, and they believe the negative self-talk
Yeah.
instead
Well,
of just going, I need to tweak this a couple of degrees.
I thought all of those things. I thought every one of those things. And I thought I've made a terrible mistake. Matter of fact, I quit my job to start this business. And I don't know that I would recommend that for everybody, but for me, it was do or die. So I had invested a lot of money in getting started in a business coaching program. And I knew that there was no way that I was going back. I wanted it so badly. So I kind of had to shift and figure it out, which is one of the other things I was going to say is, I don't know if this would be right for everybody, but for me, I was all in 100%, and I didn't have an option to go backwards. So it was sink or swim. And
Yeah.
I had to fight really, really, really hard. I didn't have a lot of money for quite some time. I accumulated debt. I really made a lot of sacrifices in terms of my lifestyle, my family's lifestyle. But I always knew in my mind that I was doing the right thing. I always felt that in my mind and in my heart. So I just figured I just have to keep going and do whatever it takes to make this work.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very tough thing for people, is to go all in. That, and it is risky. And I'm like that though. I'm like that. If I don't go all in, like, that's it. I'm throwing everything else to the side, and I'm just doing this one thing. It has to work. And that's my mentality. It has to work. And when you don't leave yourself the option of a fallback plan, like, well, I'll keep my job and do this part-time and scale it up, which is what normal people would do. Most, when I'm sitting here thinking about it, not that you're not normal, but I'm definitely not. And
no, I'm not normal. I'm not.
I sit there and I think about, like, how many times I've just left a job that I knew I had a solid income in to go work for myself. I did it, I had been in the same job for like 10 years. I knew what I was doing. I was at the top of my game. I was in the best position I could be in that particular industry. And the only way to earn more money would have been to, own a business for myself. And so I was like, yeah, but I'm going to switch careers. I'm going to switch industries altogether. And so I did. I switched into a independent sales contracting job, doing contracting sales, which I had never done before.
Yeah.
And it was risky, but I saw the benefit in it. I knew that I could grow working for myself, and I knew that there was no limit to how much I could earn, because I was going to be in a commission-based setting. And if you don't put a cap on me, then I won't stop. I'll go, how far can I push these people? How much money can I make off of these folks here? And so I did that. I made a lot of money in construction sales, selling, projects to people. And it was very successful for me, but it was the exact same thing. I had quit my job and I went all in. There was no messing up. There was no going back. There was no fallback plan. I was just like, no, it has to work. And there's something about your mentality when you do it that way, you will become obsessed with making sure that it works.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I was thinking it becomes an obsession because it has to be. I didn't mention that I also got divorced right after I quit my job and had started this business. So I was in my house by myself. I have 3 kids. One was going to college the next year. So there was a lot at stake. And I just knew that I just always knew it was what I was meant to do. So I just kept going and made it work. And I think your mentality has everything to do with success. I'm not saying that would be right for everybody. I think some people do very successfully keep their full-time job and build their business on the side. But for me, I really needed to just focus 100% on my business and where I was going.
Yeah. And you have a big service mentality, which I love. I think that service mentality and leadership go hand in hand. But speak a little bit to that.
Yes. So I traditionally I've tried, it's funny, at different points in life, I have tried selling things like Mary Kay and Advocare, and I've just absolutely stunk at it. I'm terrible at selling things, but I'm really good at helping people and meeting their needs. And it's funny because I have a lot of clients. I'm pretty much maxed out on how much work I can take in terms of how much time I have in a week. And I, not too long ago, stopped and reflected, and I was like, you are selling yourself and your services every day. And I don't even realize it because my focus is service. And I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out.
Yeah. That's why I almost made a face when you were like, what? You don't sell? Girl, what
I
you talking
know,
about?
that's what I mean. I was like, I didn't get it until recently. And then I was like, oh, I guess I do. But
Yeah.
my approach is, I'm a social worker. So my background is, helping people and listening. And I'm, very empathetic. And so I'm really good at figuring out what the needs are. And then if I am aligned and I can help, then I will. If they're not the client for me because I don't think I'm the best person to help them, it's very easy for me then to just say, I'm not sure that that's my area of expertise, but let me connect you with this person who could help you. So it feels really good. And I think that's why I'm able to just keep going, because I'm focusing on solving problems and meeting needs for people and helping them live a better life. So that's pretty cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's funny. So many people are like that. They don't realize that they're in sales when they're in sales. And so I was gonna call you on it too. I was gonna be like, girl, you in sales right now. What are you talking about? Mm-mm. It's so true. It's so true. Did you see my face? I can't hide
Yeah,
anything on my face.
you did. You're like,
I
what?
went, huh? Nuh-uh. Excuse you. No, but I was the same way. And it's about service, and it's about, serving. When you want to serve others and you want to do a really good job for them, and you like to make sure that they're taken care of, and you're really concerned with their customer experience, you make the best type of salespeople. Because I could be wrong on this. This is my opinion. I think there's two types of salespeople. There's salespeople who go into it because they like to make a lot of money, and like me, they like that no cap. If you don't put a cap on me, I will just bust out sales as much as I can, right?
Yeah.
And they're all about the numbers, and those are number salespeople. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know that they necessarily feel very fulfilled with themselves, or that they leave their customers feeling very, very fulfilled. I do know that I am a service-based salesperson. I come from a hospitality background, the restaurant industry. And so when I got into sales, that was my background, was serving other people.
Yeah.
And that's why I was good at it. I went out on a limb and I was like, I can do the sales thing. All you got to do is talk to people. I talk to people all day long. Why not? Sure. Let's do
Yeah.
it. So I got into that career, and I was immediately very successful at it because I had a service mentality, just like you're talking about, where I didn't necessarily, think that I had been in sales, but it kind of made me realize after maybe about 6-7 months of being in the contracting sales industry, I went, man, I've been selling all along, but I've been selling myself. I've been, and not in a bad way, folks. Okay,
Not
don't get
like
it
that.
twisted. Okay, but in any sales position, you really honestly are first and foremost selling yourself, selling your energy, that exchange of what I can bend over to do for you, what I can make happen for you. That has a lot to do with people's personality, and a lot to do with trusting that individual. And do I like their personality? Then I'm going to trust them. And if they like you and they trust you, they're very likely to buy from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, service-minded individuals make really good salespeople, and they also make very strong leaders because, and this is a conversation I just had with Scott Mason of Scott Mason LLC. He's a business advisor, an amazing person to boot. And we just had a discussion today about, real leadership, meaning serving other people, and specifically serving the people who you're managing if you're in a management position. And in your case, you're serving your clients, and and that mentality has kept you in your own place of leadership in your own business. So it's just double down on it today. Service makes the difference. If you have that mentality, if you have that personality type, I almost think for certain you'd be successful in any leadership role or sales position, and you're in both. And I'm so glad that you realized that you're in sales. I was sitting there going, we have to have a conversation after this.
We're gonna have to have a side chat.
Yes, sidebar.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yep.
Oh man. And now, last but not least, my favorite question, and I ask everybody at the end of the program, what is your number one tip for a hopeful entrepreneur out there listening in right now?
I think my number one tip is to be authentic, and that in many different ways. So the first part is being authentic with yourself. So what is it that you really want out of life? It's so crazy, but so many people don't know how to answer that question. Some of my keynotes focus on that topic. And I'll have, several people in the room, and I'll ask that question. And people haven't really thought about that. A lot of people get up and they shuffle through their day, and they go to their 9 to 5s, and they take care of their kids, and they do X, Y, and Z because that's what they're supposed to do. And they just kind of march through life, almost in a robotic type way. And I think I used to do that because I would be multitasking and overachieving and really just pushing myself on what was healthy. And what happened was I disconnected from my true self and my purpose and passion in life. I just was basically a puppet, kind of marching through the world. And so I think being authentic first and foremost means with yourself and what you want out of life. And then making decisions that align with that. So if this is the kind of life that I want, am I headed in the right direction, or do I need to really think about making some adjustments or some changes? Are the people that I'm surrounding myself with people who are more successful than I am, people who could mentor me, people who I can look up to and really learn from? Or am I kind of playing small because I'm hanging out with people who, maybe aren't as ambitious, or they're just kind of okay with their life the way it is? So that's the first part of being authentic. The second part has to do with your connections with other people. So I just really operate in an authentic way in terms of connecting with people. I really genuinely care about people, and I think that helps me in my business. I think people feel that from me. If I'm sitting in a school working with a teacher and a student who's really struggling, maybe getting in trouble all the time, loads of behaviors, may have an undiagnosed mental health issue or learning disability, really struggling, I can sit down and connect with that child and that teacher immediately, simply because I'm talking from my heart and I'm just being real. I really truly care about both, and they can feel that from me. That's something that I've learned is a gift that I have, and I think that others who can really lean more in that direction will be able to be more successful in their business, because people know when you're being real, when you're being authentic with them. Or are you just trying to get a new job? Or are you just trying to bring in more money? I can see it in people's posts on LinkedIn. I can hear it in conversations. You kind of get a feel for someone's energy and someone's intention.
Yeah.
So don't you think?
Absolutely, for sure. And I think you did mention being empathetic, and I do get that sense about you that you are an empathetic individual, and I am also, and so it's really tough though when you can tell, because you're empathetic, that somebody's being not maybe disingenuine, or just like playing a certain role type because they want a certain outcome,
Yeah,
and it doesn't sit well, and you just don't even know what to do or say, because like, you can't hate on them. You can, I kind of get what they're trying to accomplish, but at the same time it's just like, dude, just be you. You're pretty awesome by yourself. You don't need to.
you just want them to get that, right?
Yeah.
For me, I mean, we encounter that all the time. There are a lot of people who maybe aren't in tune with themselves or being authentic, and you can feel it. And so for me, what happens when I encounter that is I just, I'm polite and cordial, but I'm probably not going to choose to spend much more time around that person because it doesn't feel right. So if you can create that feeling with somebody else where they know that you really truly care and you are there to serve them and you're speaking from the heart, then they're going to want to surround themselves with you. They want to have you come back. They know that you're in this to help them, and so
Absolutely.
it's like a magnet, I feel.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's the best. That is exactly the way to describe it. You will magnetize yourself, and people will be attracted to you when you are being yourself and being
Yeah,
authentic. That is a really, really good piece of advice, Jennifer.
that's why it's my number one tip, because
Yeah.
if you could have all the other things that I mentioned earlier, and if you don't have that piece, it's kind of all like, it's all kind of fake. Like I read a
Yeah.
book and I'm supposed to dream big, and I have a good vision, but I'm not speaking from the heart and being authentic. It's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
agree. I love that. And if anybody is out there listening, and you would like to engage with Jennifer and in conversation, she's like one of the easiest people to talk to. You can find her on LinkedIn. Her name is Jennifer Bashant. Her website is jenniferbashant.com, and her business name is Building Better Futures. She's an international speaker, a very, very intellectual person, and I thoroughly enjoyed having our discussion. And thank you so much for being on Friday's Flavor, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you.
Absolutely. We're going to have to do it again. God bless you, girl, and happy Friday, everybody.
So, take care.